Top of the morning to you, laddies. My name is Steven with the PH. Welcome to PH Balance, and may the 4th be with you. We're doing a tier list. That's fun, right? New, exciting, fun times. I'm doing a tier list on Star Wars, since it is May the 4th, Star Wars official day. I'm also recording on 2 devices right now. I have my phone here and my webcam here because this is the first time I'm using the webcam, so I want to make sure everything gets recorded appropriately, so I have a little bit of backup. I thought it'd be really fun to do a Star Wars tier list because I am a fan. I do really enjoy Star Wars, but I'm not as diehard of a fan as most Star Wars people are. I've only seen the movies each one time, and so this tier list is going to be based on my one experience with all the films. For some of you diehard Star Wars fans, my opinion might upset you, and if that's the case, go ahead and write down on a piece of paper what you think and throw it away, because I don't care. At the end of the day, please don't let my opinion upset you, because I'm someone who likes my steak well done, so my opinion literally doesn't matter. Great. We're going to do all different forms of Star Wars media. We're going to start with the movies, go to the TV shows, and then I couldn't make my own tier list because I had to have a Twitter account, which I don't have, and I've been told horror stories about Twitter, so that's probably not going to happen. So I wasn't able to put video games on this list, but I will still rate the video games. I'm going to edit those photos and post so that you can see the full tier list there at the end. The biggest issue with Star Wars as a whole, as a company, is that the universe and the elements like the Force and lightsabers and all those things is so incredible that it's impossible for them to capture it in a movie. Like, the universe is what makes Star Wars interesting, and I've never seen a movie that really fully brings to life what is so cool about Star Wars, which is unfortunate. However, the greatest Star Wars movie ever made, which is actually not a Star Wars movie, is Knights of the Old Republic. It's a video game that was released on Xbox. It won the Game of the Year when it came out, I believe in 2003. And then it had a sequel, which is also equally amazing, which is why Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic earns an S tier. Woo! The greatest piece of Star Wars media out there. Hands down, argue with me, I don't care. It's amazing. If you haven't seen it or played it, I highly urge you to. They're currently making a remake for PS5. There's no official release date yet, but I highly encourage you to play it. Apparently they're remaking it with new graphics from the ground up, with new voice acting, new story plots. They're going to link part of the first KOTOR and the second together. So I highly recommend it, but even if you don't want to wait for that, it is out on the Switch and the PC. And it actually functions really, really well on the Switch, so I highly recommend it. If you're interested in seeing me do a playthrough of it, it's a very, very long, dialogue-heavy game. It was made by the creators who made Mass Effect, so it was made first and then they made Mass Effect, and they're very, very similar in style. I'm more than happy to do a full playthrough of that on the channel and just cut all of the dialogue, all the fluff that is not necessary, and just catch you up to speed on the story as we go. I think that could be a lot of fun. I absolutely love that game. I know it back and forth like the back of my hand, so I can take you through the story really quickly. And at least that way, if you're not much into games, you can get the full sense of what Knights of the Old Republic is and see why I cherish it so much. It's probably the only reason why I'm still a Star Wars fan, is because that game is so amazing. But I think a great place to start is Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now, I'm going to try and recall when I first watched these movies. The Phantom Menace I watched in 2020 during the COVID pandemic, way past when it was out. It was actually the last Star Wars movie I saw, I think. Can't really remember if the Episode 9 came out before or after COVID. I think before. I don't remember. Anyways, I was always told that Episode 1 was like hot trash, hot garbage. I actually didn't think it was that bad. I kind of enjoyed it, to be completely honest. I think Jar Jar Binks was a mistake. But I mean, Natalie Portman, Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor, like, you can't go wrong with those people. And obviously, Darth Maul is such an awesome villain with the double-bladed red lightsaber. I thought pod racing was fun. I just think the biggest issue with the movie was it was a very slow burn. There wasn't a whole lot that happened, in my opinion. I think it's a solid C tier movie for me. Episode 2, which I don't remember the name. I watched this movie. This was the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters when I was, how old was I? When did this movie come out? Let's see. Attack of the Clones. There you go. That movie came out in 2002. Yeah, I was like 6 years old when this movie came out. I had no idea what was happening, and I fell asleep. So there's that. I did actually see this movie a second time. I'm a little bit of a liar. I watched all the Star Wars movies back to back during COVID. And I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I have no idea why Padme would ever fall in love with Anakin based on the way he acts in that movie. I think it's probably overall also a C. I think it improves in some areas over episode 1 and then deproves in other areas. Now, my first real movie Star Wars experience that I remember watching was episode 3. I thought there was so much action in episode 3 that I thought it was the coolest thing ever. It was also probably the most horrific thing I'd ever watched at that point in my life, because watching Anakin turn evil and fight Obi-Wan was horrifying. I don't know, I kind of liked it. I would give this one a solid B tier, but for now I'm going to go A and maybe move it later. Who knows? The original trilogy, this is going to be blasphemous because I also watched this in 2020 for the first time, and I am not a fan of older movies. I think movies have come such a long way with cinematography, with writing, with acting, and so I thought the writing and the acting was pretty piss poor in the original films. Just going to go ahead and say it. There were some awesome moments. I think from day one, Harrison Ford was just an awesome Han Solo. He is Han Solo. Mark Hamill is a national treasure and is not a great actor in these films by any means. I mean, it had to start somewhere, right? And I don't want to hold the writing and the acting against it. I'll give it a solid B tier. I will say, just full stop, I enjoyed the first 3, episode 1, 2, and 3 trilogy better than I had enjoyed the original trilogy when I watched it. Sorry, blasphemy, whatever. Gotta be honest, I don't really remember what happens in The Empire Strikes Back. Spoiler alert, I'm Googling it. Leia confesses her love for Han before Vader freezes him, and Carbonite and Leia Paco avoid the rebel fleet or Luke's hand. So he gets his hand cut off, and that's when he finds out that Darth Vader is his dad. It was very, very cheesy finding out that Darth Vader was Luke's dad after I already knew that. Had I not known that and saw that in theaters, I think it would have been pretty lit, fam. I'll go ahead and give it a B tier. All right, the final one of the 3, the big baddie. I actually did like the ending of the film. I liked that Darth Vader kind of redeemed himself a little bit. I think if I'm being true to myself, this is going to be a B, and in reality, these are going to be C's. Let's do that. That makes sense. And honestly, I think 2 might be a D, but I'm going to keep it there because I actually did like the conflict with Count Dooku and all of them. All right, now we're getting into scary territory, because this is where my opinion may differ from all of yours. Out of all of the movies I've watched, I genuinely think that The Force Awakens, episode 7, the first episode with Rey. It was Rey, yeah. It took me a second to remember her name. Honestly, it was my favorite Star Wars movie I've seen in theaters. Sorry, gonna say it. This is an A tier for me. I thought it was great. I know a lot of people think / say that it was literally just a carbon copy of A New Hope, the original Star Wars film. But again, we've come such a long way with writing, acting, and cinematography that A New Hope it's just not a great movie in today's world. And I think they built a lot on what they originally had, which made it more enjoyable. And in a season of just nothing but remakes, this was a fresh take on a used story. It wasn't a clean remake, but it had a lot of similarities. I just think it was done better. However, that being said, this one that I don't even remember the name of is the hottest garbage I've ever seen in my life. F tier. Hands down. I'm only going to put one thing in S tier and one thing in F tier just so that you can get the full scale of what is, in my opinion, the greatest piece of Star Wars media and what is the hot trash garbage piece of Star Wars media. Everything about this movie is garbage. The entire time I watched it, I thought it was terrible, laughable even. Not like fun bad, but like bad to the point of like, who signed off on this? The writing was atrocious. The fact that the entire conflict in the movie was two spaceships chasing each other at like 5 miles an hour for like 2.5 hours. Like nothing happened. And the whole movie centered around Finn, who I think Finn is a great character, but I think his side plot in this movie was just atrocious. It made no sense. There was no reasoning behind it. And then they introduced Rose, who I'm not going to knock the actress. The actress did what she could with what she had, but her character writing was awful. The character development was terrible. And then they basically wrote her out of the next film because everyone hated it so much. It was just an awful movie. And the whole conflict was, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then their resolution at the end of the film was something they could have done from the start. So the whole movie was pointless. All right. Ooh, you know what? Episode 2, I'm going to go based on the original first time I watched the film, because that's what I'm doing with all of these. This one I'd seen twice. And so I based it off my newer experience watching the film, but I'm going to base it off of when I was 6 years old. And the one thing I remember is it is the first movie I consciously remember seeing in theaters that I fell asleep during. This is a D tier. Just for that reason. I actually kind of enjoyed it when I watched it in 2020, but when I was younger, I fell asleep during the film. I had no idea what was happening. I thought some things were cool, but for the most part, it was just kind of meh. So yeah, it's the first movie I ever remember falling asleep to, and the only other movie I ever remember falling asleep to was this one right here, and for that reason, this is also a D tier. I think it had some cool moments, if I even remember. I don't remember this film at all. And everyone tells me, oh, no, you have to watch it. Like, it actually wasn't that bad. Like, I fell asleep at the very end of the film. I got so bored during this movie because there's no action. And then apparently there's a really climactic fight at the end of the film. And I slept from the time the fight started to the end of the movie. I was asleep. I didn't see any of it. And my God, do I not want to go back and rewatch all of that just to like see a movie that everyone says is also not good. They just really messed up. I really enjoyed the first one. Everyone hated it because it was like A New Hope, but I thought it was great because it gave them a really awesome starting point, which they immediately crashed into the ground with episode 8 and episode 9. They literally didn't follow up on anything they built and started in the first film. And that is why out of the 3 trilogies, as much as I dislike older movies, because like I said, writing, cinematography, acting is not that great, the newest trilogy with Rey is unfortunately the biggest disappointment in the Star Wars franchise. Hey y'all, Steven jumping in real quick, because there are a few things I remember about this film before falling asleep that I think are important to bring up. The number one thing I wanted to talk about is the romance between Rey and Kylo Ren. I think that was so shoehorned into this movie, it made me so upset. Why can Rey not just be a strong, independent woman who does everything on her own and doesn't need Kylo Ren? Like, they can be friends, and I like his redemption arc, and I want them to have that kind of, like, you know, force connection that bonds them together. You know, almost like a Leia and a Luke, where they're just very, very, very close. They don't sibling kiss each other. I don't know why they had to push that romance. There was no need for it. It was just kind of forced upon the audience. The other thing that really rubbed me the wrong way when I did wake up at the end of the film was this really weird moment where everyone is celebrating, and then they really quickly flash for like 3 seconds or less to 2 women who are kissing each other. And there is nothing wrong with that. I absolutely love that. I want more representation for the LGBTQ community. But what it felt like to me was that they were putting it in there to try and appeal to more people, but it was pointless. Like, it didn't mean anything. Nothing was earned. We'd never seen those characters before. They were just thrown in there at the end, and it very much felt like Disney was just trying to pander to get more money, which I don't respect. If you're going to do that, have it be 2 of the main characters. Let's get some actual representation, please and thank you. It also makes me really mad that they wrote out Rose entirely. I did not like her character at all in the second movie. It was probably my least favorite part of the movie, but I think she could have had an amazing redemption arc, and her romance with Finn should have been explored further. It should not have been cut off then and then given Finn a new love interest, not to mention the fact that Finn had force sensitivity. He was able to kind of garner up the force, and then they never did anything with it. Rogue One, which everyone thinks is like the most amazing Star Wars movie, I found very underwhelming. That is also probably a D tier for me. I think if I went back and rewatched it, I might appreciate it more. I think it had a decently cool ending, and I like that they tied it back to like A New Hope. So maybe for those reasons, I'd give it a C tier, but I do think it's a pretty boring movie overall. Solo, the exact opposite of Rogue One. Everyone hates this movie. I actually didn't think it was that bad. I think the actor did a pretty phenomenal job playing a character that is so beloved, and I'm just such a stan for Emilia Clarke. That is a B tier for me. Mandalorian, I think is also somewhat underwhelming. We love Pedro Pascal, but man, there are so many episodes that are just so slow and boring and nothing ever happens in them. I've only seen season 1, so that's what I'm basing it on. The last few episodes in the season did slap, specifically as soon as Bill Burr came in. I don't even know anything about Bill Burr. I'm not like saying I'm a Bill Burr fan. I just know he was in an episode, and that was my favorite episode. For that, I'm going to give Mandalorian a B, just because I'm a huge fan of where television is nowadays. I think we're in the television renaissance, and I think they do a lot of cool things. I just think overall it's pretty underwhelming. And now we're to the cartoon TV shows, which I haven't seen any of these. Haven't seen. Though I will say everyone says that the Clone Wars is like the greatest thing of all times, so I will have to see it at some point. I've heard nothing but great things. I just haven't personally seen it myself. Oh, I also forgot to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi and the Book of Boba Fett. Haven't seen either of them. Sorry. Love Ewan McGregor, though. Thumbs up for Obi-Wan, even though I heard the show's terrible. Yay. Put him in the haven't seen category. Okay, bye! Great. Let's go to video games. We're going to talk about Star Wars Battlefront, the original Battlefront 1 and 2 for the PlayStation. Some of the greatest video gameplay of all time. It's incredible. That is an A tier, hands down. Would be an S tier if I allowed more than one game in S tier, just because it really is just an incredible game. I don't think it quite squeaks out over KOTOR. I also think it's kind of hard to put the two of them together, because Knights of the Old Republic is an RPG and Battlefront is just like a battle royale shooter, kind of like a Call of Duty-esque type game. They're both fantastic. I would still play them to this day. If they were like modernized with modern graphics, but it was the exact same game, I probably would play them daily. They're so good. Now, the newer EA version of Battlefront, which is like the new Battlefront, is trash. D tier. Absolutely D tier. I played the first one for about 5 minutes and hated it so much I never played it again. I literally spent $60 and then took it back immediately after because it was so bad. The second one I haven't played. I've seen people say it's not that bad, but the first one put such a bad taste in my mouth that I'm going to give the first one a D, and the second one I haven't seen / played. I've also heard Jedi Knights is an amazing video game, but I also haven't played it, so that's going into haven't seen or played. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about the Jedi Fallen Order games, which is Jedi Fallen Order, and then the new one that just came out. What's it called? Hold on. Jedi Survivor, I think. Yeah. Fallen Order and Survivor. I have not played either of those either. So those are both going into haven't seen or played. I'm interested in playing them for the channel, so if that's something you want to see, I'll definitely do that. I actually was thinking about getting Survivor today and playing it, but apparently it has such awful performance issues that I just don't really want to waste my time with it or give it the money, because we're living in a day and age where I said TV shows are in a renaissance where they're doing really, really well. Video games are in an awful place right now where every single video game company seems to release games before they're finished, which is just abysmal. Like, why am I paying $60 or $70 for a game that doesn't work? It's ridiculous. That's mainly happening on PlayStation and Xbox. Nintendo does a pretty good job of polishing their games. Nintendo Polish is what it's called. They really flesh out their games before they send them out. Besides Kirby and the Forgotten Land, it was a fun game, but the cutscenes had no actual sound effects. It was just music, and I think that's atrocious. Also, I forgot to talk about Lego Star Wars, which is an easy A tier. I don't even have to explain that one. That game is amazing. All right, cool. Thanks. Oh my gosh. Also popping in to talk about The Force Unleashed, another video game franchise that I played and didn't talk about. Also an easy A tier. I think if I went back and played it today, it'd be more of a B, while Lego Star Wars is going to hold strong to that A. But I remember playing the first Force Unleashed when it came out, and that was just amazing. What a great story. But that's my official Star Wars tier list. Hopefully it didn't make you too upset. Hopefully you watch this video all the way to the end so I can get that sweet, sweet non-existent revenue, because I'm not a YouTube partner and I make no money off of this. But if you want me to make money off of this, which I would love, go ahead and like the video, comment down below what you want to see next. If you want to see me play Knights of the Old Republic or Fallen Order / Survivor, I'd love to do that. And then subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because it really, really does help me out. I'm going to make more of these tier lists as well as more React content. Just tell me what you want to see and I will make it happen. And that's it for me for right now. So, bye.